So we are back with more conversations about holistic health with women over 50. We're talking about the 5 things they do for their holistic health, spiritually, sexually, mentally, physically, and nutrition wise. Okay. So I hope you've been enjoying these conversations that we do every Sunday at 1 p.m. live. Um, We've been having some great things to think about as women who are over 50. And today I have my new guest. Of course, let me say before I tell you my new guest is I'm Reverend Dr. Brooke Brimm. This is my channel, Holistic Health Over 50. You can also find me on the channel Vegan Soul Foodie, where I cook up all kinds of vegan delights for you. But hey, right now we're talking, you don't have to be a vegan to be here. We are talking about how we keep ourselves vibrant, young, feeling good, energetic, over 50. And I hope you've been enjoying these conversations. So today we have a nurse and a minister, but I'm going to let her tell you all about herself, Dr. Latora Grant Scott. Take it away, Latora. Tell us about you.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I appreciate this space, and thank you for creating this space for women over 50, especially. A lot of times it's hard for us to feel seen, so thank you for that. I am Reverend Dr. Latora Grant Scott. I am a pastoral health minister. A little bit about my background. I am a registered nurse by clinical training. I've been a nurse for 30 years, and so my background is cardiovascular nursing. The doctor part comes, I have a Ph.D. in public health, but I also have a doctorate in pastoral health ministry. I had the um, I had the great opportunity to complete a program that was designed specifically for nurses who wanted a spiritual and also a holistic training, and it was designed just for nurses for pastoral health and basically making sure that we were able to help other healthcare professionals, but also people who are in ministry make sure that they're taking care of themselves. So it was a great, unique opportunity. And fun fact, it was a Messianic seminary, so that was interesting too. So a different, kind of a different perspective. But that's me, kind of in a short nutshell.
I love that. I love that. Okay. So, and I love everything about how you just keep evolving and growing and learning at every level of what you want to offer to the world. Let me ask you a question though. I'm just
Yeah.
curious. Are you an ENFP on the Myers-Briggs?
Um, I don't know.
You don't know. Okay. Okay.
I don't know.
And the reason why I asked that is silly. It's kind of a the first time I took one, I was maybe 20, 22. I had just moved to Atlanta and I just started college. And I was in college for fashion design. So I took the Myers-Briggs. I can think of, I don't know. I might have been in psychology class. I don't know. I took the Myers-Briggs and it said that I could have been a minister, a counselor, a probation officer, all these kind of touchy-feely type of jobs. And I was in fashion design at the time. And I was like, what? No way. And, here I am, 55 years old. I am a minister. I did get a master's in counseling, and I do yoga and, all these touchy-feely type of things. So I was just curious because you are very, and now I work with senior health. I was curious because you kind of seem to be doing the same kind of thing. And I was wondering if that was an ENFP kind of thing, but it's like you didn't even take the test. So,
No,
okay.
honestly, I've taken several like tests like that, and
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
never can remember which one is which. And I am always, even since a teenager, been in the touchy feely.
Right,
This
right,
is
right,
kind
right.
of where you need to be. But I was also that kid that if it was a hurt animal, or I'm out there bandaging it up, and
Yeah.
if I'm taking care of everybody. Oh, it's okay. So that's just who I am. So I
Yes.
was not surprised by any of those tests.
I mean, at the time I was, because when I first started, I was like kind of a party girl doing all my fashion and everything. So when I saw this touchy feely minister, what? Not at all. And boy, did they have it right. Anyway, anyway, let's get into our 5 things that you do. Let's start with physical. Tell me what you
So,
do for your holistic health, keeping it 360 whole, physically.
so one of the physical practices that I incorporate that is very holistic is yoga, as you know, because yoga is it's physical from what people see, the Shana piece of it, but it's definitely holistic and spiritual, and it's a spiritual practice. As far as not religious practice for me, but it is mind, body, spirit. You're
Hmm.
connecting the breath with everything, and the breath is so important. How to regulate, it helps you regulate your emotions. It helps you, ease into a pose, and all of these things. And so, the discipline of the yoga as far as learning to recognize my breath, acknowledge the breath, and put that into practice is something that I do physically. And also, I tell people all the time, they're like, well, yoga is nice, but it's slow. Like if you do power yoga, you can get the lifting and the all of that. There are different aspects to it. I have since I've been over 50. I'm 53 right now.
Hmm.
My doctor was like, you need to lift. She's like, the yoga is fine, all that is great, but you need to lift. And so I have started incorporating some lifting into my practice. So definitely, at first I was like, I just don't really want to want to do that, but it has definitely made a big difference. And also over 50, just talking with other women. uh, when you hit that plateau, cardio is great because you need that for your heart health. I also do that. I have a stationary bike, so I do some type of cardio. Have a weighted hula hoop. I do that. But if you don't lift the weight that you're trying to get off is going to be a lot harder to come off. So you have to lift to tone the muscle. So those are the three things:
Absolutely.
yoga, cardio, weights.
Yes, absolutely. I just had this on the last conversation. Um, yeah, the weight training, I had to incorporate that. Because I started discovering a little bit arthritis when I moved to the Northeast, where it's colder than the South. That cold kind of really brought up with that I had a little bit of arthritis going. I mean, I already saw it. Someone told me on an X-ray, so I knew it was there. But when it's warmer, you don't feel it as much. But when I
Right.
moved back to the cold, I was like, and so I definitely started weight training to help with that. Just keeping my joints stronger and all of that.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's a principle that I actually teach when I'm teaching yoga teachers that
mhm,
uh, how you strengthen bone is by putting pressure on it. And so you have to, that's why babies learn to walk when you let them stand up and put
mhm.
pressure. That's how you, and when a bone, when it breaks, it actually comes back stronger if you let it heal right. So you have to put pressure on it. So absolutely, weights are very important.
Wow. Okay. That's a good little tidbit. That's a good tidbit. Anyway, yes, I'm incorporating uh strength training, and the last person that I talked to, she was even talking about how strength training is good for your mental health. Like it's a mental health tool, and I hadn't thought about that. It's a resilience tool. So I was like, oh, okay, cool, cool. I'm gonna keep lifting my weights. All right, so let's move into what you do for your mental health. Okay.
So for my mental health, yoga is still a part of that.
Mhm.
Pranayama and meditation because those are limbs of. So centering prayer is
Pranayama, just for people who don't know
oh,
what is pranayama.
breath work.
Breath.
Pranayama is breath work.
Mhm,
Intentional breathing. Intentional
mhm,
breathing
mhm.
is and then centering prayer is the type of meditation that I like to practice. It's a Christian based form of meditation where you incorporate scripture into your quiet time. And so
Mm,
meditation is definitely something. And then in the last year or so, I have been reading more about and trying to be more intentional about recognizing emotional intelligence. And
mm,
that is something that's helping me outside in the outside world because I still have a 9 to 5 job. Is being very self-aware of my own emotional intelligence and then recognizing that in other people and not like sometimes it helps you as far as okay, you can see that it's really not an attack on you, it's that this person just may have a lower emotional intelligence. And so
right, right.
that's something that has very
That is
important.
that what you just said is indicates a strong sense of empathy, just like to say, oh, okay, they're on a different, they're lower on the spectrum than I am for emotional intelligence. So let me have a little bit of empathy for that. Let me not take it personal. So I think that's pretty strong. I love that. So let's move on to. Oh, nope, not that one. We're not going to do that one yet. You have to wait till the end for this one. Okay, nutrition. Tell me what you do for nutrition for your health
Oh,
as a
so
personal.
nutrition, I picked the term that you coined. I love when you said it's I'm plant dominant. So I tell people that all the time. I am not vegan, but I am plant dominant for sure.
Okay, we spreading
Um,
that. We spread that. Okay.
The first time it was several years ago when I heard you say that, I was like, yeah, that kind of describes it. So when people ask me, are you vegan? I was like, no, I'm plant dominant and pescatarian-ish.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I am, So it's
Okay.
like I I eat for how I feel. If
Mhm.
I eat something and I'll feel bad afterwards, no matter how much I liked it, how much I love it, I won't eat that again. And that's something that happened as I got older. I was like, mm-mm. If my body's not metabolizing it correctly, I'm feeling bloated and just afterwards, then it's not for me. And so I try to incorporate a lot of plant-based into my diet because I feel the best when I do that.
Yeah.
But I'm from Louisiana, and so seafood comes in, that's
Yeah.
especially when I'm with my family,
Mhm.
with my family, and that's what we have. And so that's how I do the nutrition. And also when I'm working with clients, I talk about you have to think about nutrition holistically, and that food is fuel and medicine. It's not just food to be just because you feel like eating something. Yes, you need it, but you need it to actually for your body to function. And so it's just like your car. We have these love affairs with cars, and you put the best possible fuel in your car. You need to do the same thing with your body.
That has been becoming a theme in this series. Just everyone that I have talked to and has really talked about their nutrition, basically what's the word? Just cultivating what they eat and not just mindlessly eating anything,
Yes,
right? And
yes,
not just eating emotional eating and not just eating because they want to stuff their faces and all that kind of stuff. So I think that is like so huge because everyone that I've interviewed so far, and this is not intentional, has been within a good weight range and has been active and healthy. And, you know, even one person had a colon cancer scare, but still active, healthy today. You know what I mean?
yes.
And so I guess what I'm pointing out as a theme is that whether you're plant-based or not plant-based, pescatarian, whatever you are, whether you eat, there has definitely been a theme of let me be mindful about what's going in my mouth. One person talked about watching her carbs for her diabetes. And, we have plant-based people. We have one person that just eats once a day. All of these things are important. And we see a lot on the internet of all this big back, as they think it's a really big joke to talk about their big back and all this slathering on of all this different kinds of food and things. And what I notice is most of the time it is people in their 20s, 30s who are doing this, even their 40s, who are doing the big back, what they call big back activity and slathering on all the creams and this and that. And they think it's really funny and cute and they're getting likes and clicks and all of that. But what I want to say is if you want to be, I'm 55, Latora's 53, you said?
Yes.
53. If you want to
No, I'm
be
not. I'm mine. I'm 54.
54,
Yeah,
54.
I turned 54 in May, so I'm
Yeah, I'm
54.
55. Latora's 54. And all the other women that I've shown have been over 50, into their 60s even. Um, if you want to get to this age and look young, feel normal, be kind of a normal weight, you got to stop the big back activity. I hate to say this. If you're watching this in your 30s, it's not who you are right now. I mean, who you're going to be in 5 and 10 years, you're developing that person right now. This kind of lifestyle and this kind of being aware of your holistic health did not start for us. Tell me, Latora. I know it's true. It didn't start in your 50s, right?
No,
When did it
not at
start for you?
all. 30s, when I hit 30.
This is what I'm saying. So if you're in your 30s, your 20s, your 40s, you're thinking big back is funny and this is something you should do, understand you are headed towards Ozempic, you're headed towards surgery, you're headed towards pills, all the things, because it's not funny, it's not a joke, and this time does go fast. So I started my health journey at 22, I think 22 or 3. So I want you to start thinking about it now, right? Even though this is 50 over holistic health over 50, it is time to think about it now if you're younger, because it comes up on you fast. Before you know it, you're on pills, you're having to get surgeries, Ozempics, all this kinds of things, and you don't know what went wrong. It was thinking it was all funny, joking a game with all the slathering the cheese and the cheesiest macaroni and cheese and blah 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 and all these things, all the lamb chops, lollipops, and doing this and that and putting this kind of compound butter, all of that big back activity, it leads somewhere. And so if
Right.
you want to be like us at 50 looking good, over 50 looking good, looking young, moving, doing the things, having all these things, not being weighed down with disease and um, you know, different all kinds of management things, you have to think about it. You have to be
Definitely.
active and you have to think about your nutrition now. And that doesn't mean you have to be plant dominant like us, but you do, because not everyone we've talked to has been many have been, but not everyone has to be plant dominant, but you do have to do some kind of monitoring of what you eat and not just pop it in there for no reason.
When I
I mean,
started in my 30s, I was
mhm,
not plant dominant at all. I was
mhm,
not even pescatarian-ish. I was still eating meat, but
right.
it became, I was what they call a late mother. I didn't have my child until I was 32. And
Mhm,
so it was during that process and noticing how I was feeling with pregnancy and them having to test me to see if I was going to have gestational diabetes. And I was like, what? Well, what's going on with this? Because I've always been a tiny person as far as weight wise, but it was like, are you internally healthy? And I
mm,
think a lot of times people don't look at that too. And so that it became it was the intention,
yes,
intentionally being mindful of what I was actually putting in my body. And that's what you have. It's like, what is this doing for me if I eat this? What
right,
is it doing?
right. And that's so funny you would say that, because when I first started at 23 with my nutrition, it was a spiritual journey because I was Seventh-day Adventist, and that was just kind of part of the religion. But when I became pregnant at 27 for the first time, is when I really, really became intentional about eating the rainbow and about the different kind of nutritions that I was getting, what item gave what calcium, protein, all the things, because I was growing a person
Person.
inside of
Yes.
me.
Yes.
So I really probably was a little obsessive. I had a little book to check off how many oranges, how many reds, how many greens. I was really, really kind of intentional about that. And that's kind of after I had her, I started juicing and things too. And it really started making me think, if I'm doing all of this for this baby that I'm growing,
Yep.
how am I less valuable than her?
Yep.
I need to
Yep.
keep doing it for me. You know what I mean? She's
Yep.
valuable, yes,
Absolutely.
but then I'm valuable as well. So I need to cut down on some things, change some things, and be more intentional. And so it really, really, really started with me knowing about nutrition. I took a nutrition class, when she was a baby. It really started with me knowing about nutrition, doing this and that, all the things, because I wanted to make sure that I was not just plant dominant, but eating in a way that was really good for me.
And
So,
and that's so amazing that we as women do that all the time,
mm,
right? We
mhm,
we will make those sacrifices because it's just like women who smoke, for example. They can stop the whole 9 months and then start right back.
right in the
Or
hospital,
drinking.
right outside in the hospital. They smoke.
Or
Yeah,
drinking.
yeah,
And
right.
drinking. And they
But
can
aren't
stop the
you
whole 9 months.
valuable? Yeah, aren't
Yeah.
you just as valuable as that child? Yeah, you
My
are.
my vice was Mountain Dew at the time. Okay.
Mm,
And you know how much caffeine is in Mountain Dew and
caffeine,
sugar.
yeah. Not to
Loved
mention
it. That was
caffeine, sugar, it's just empty calories, you know?
Yep, that was my, I mean, that was my advice. Okay,
Mhm.
not alcohol, not whatever. That was my advice. But as soon as they told me I could not drink that because I was pregnant, I stopped.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the first thing I asked for after I mean, like literally after I delivered him, and they would take me back to my room, I
Mhm.
asked for Mountain Dew,
Wow.
and I
Wow.
drank it, and it made me sick, and I haven't had any since. Because it was like
Wow.
my body was like, no, it had detox from it, and I drank it. I immediately got a headache. I immediately got sick. But I wanted one though. I
Mhm.
wanted
Oh, but you just brought up a really good point that I love. And this is something that I do twice a year. I do raw and juice fast detoxing.
Yes.
And it's when we say detoxing, because I heard nutritionists say, "Oh, your organs do all the detoxing." It's not you're not actually detoxing from what you take into your gastrointestinal path. Your organs are doing the detoxing, and that is true. Your organs are doing the detoxing, but detoxing is more than just systemic, like body systems. It's also detoxing your taste buds,
Hmm.
detoxing your mind, you know
Yep.
what I mean? Detoxing your spirit. And a lot of times, if you're cutting away some of the processed food, some of the chemicals that they put into food, whatever, all these different things, if you're cutting those things away, it is a detox. So we're not just talking about detoxing what your organs do, excuse me, it's a 360 holistic detox. So to your point, when you let go of the Mountain Dew, you were washed away from that mental bond, that addiction that you had to it, the addiction to the caffeine, it was all gone. And so
Yep.
then when you try to go back to it, because as memories will do, and this is something people need to understand when they're making dietary changes, you have memories associated, and good memories too, associated with eating certain things. So like when I was a little girl, we used to have a crab boil in the summer, and the
Hmm.
whole family would come. We would go to the beach, and then we'd come home from the beach,
Oh,
get our showers and everything. When we get done, it would be a big crab boil, or it'd be crabs on newspaper, and we'd just be and having a good time, music playing, lemonade. The older folks would have beer
yeah.
or wine. It was a time. Everybody was happy. That's hard. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's hard
Hmm.
to release that association and how
Yeah.
good that feels.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you are not all the way there, don't beat yourself up over it because it's hard. It's related to food is related to your good memories. A
Yes.
lot of the things we make our whole Thanksgiving, we pull out a big spread, Christmas, New Year's, you know. So, like for instance, I made vegan chitlins. Um, I the first my husband had been asking me for vegan chitlins for 3 years, and I was like, I'm not doing that because I didn't eat chitlins growing up. I'm not doing
Right.
that. I don't
I
know
don't
nothing
eat
about it.
chitlins either.
Not me. I'm not doing it. So one day, last year, New Year's, around New Year's, I finally did it. I did it. I went viral, not in a good way. People were awful. They were terrible. I got a million views on Facebook, a million on Instagram, but it was a rough 2 months. It was hard.
Yeah.
I made them again this year on live stream, on YouTube. But the reason why it's important to me to continue to make them, whether people are awful or not, is because it's attached to people's memories. And if they
Yes.
do not want to eat chitlins anymore, but they still want to have that nostalgia, that's the reason why I do vegan soul food, because it's certain things you don't want to eat it anymore. You don't want to be a part of it. You're 100% clear that this is not for you anymore, but you still you want to feel a little bit of that nostalgia.
Yes.
Manhattan clam chowder. I love that. So I make it with oyster mushrooms. This is my nostalgia. You know what I'm saying? So I have gotten off, but actually this is something you talked about too, being from Louisiana. It's there. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so we can't
Hmm.
beat ourselves up for the times that we just want to connect with that nostalgia, with our family, with just being a part of something. But that doesn't mean we have to do it every day in our everyday lives. We have special times that we do it, or we can find special substitutes and feel good with that. Yeah, but either way.
I totally agree, and I love the fact that you have that option. The vegan soul food is great because in our culturally, happy memories are often associated with food. And it's called comfort food for a reason. And it's not just comfort because it's comforting the taste that you want. It's comforting because it triggers something in your brain. It triggers a memory. It triggers a feeling. It triggers something of nostalgia for you. So it's called comfort food for a reason. And
Yeah.
so I think it's wonderful for people to have a healthier option. And so I don't get that either. With people are so just thought about, no, it has to be this. Everybody's different, and you have to do what works for you. And so I love that
Yeah.
they have
Yeah.
options
Yeah.
there.
So we went over physical, we went over nutrition, we went over, did we go over spiritual?
No,
No.
we went over mental, but not
Well,
spiritual.
we went over mental. Okay, so let's go over spiritual right now.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting. You talked about yoga as a
Mhm.
spiritual practice. So I'm going to let you explain, but not as a religious practice. But I want you to
Right.
explain your spiritual. And it, I just want to see how this plays out with the yogi because it's so interesting.
So how I could explain two ways. So how I got connected with Dr. Brooke was she has a book called Love God Herself. I always have problems because my religious background is Christian. I identify as being a Christian woman. And so when I started doing yoga, people were like, what? Especially my inner circle. They were like, what is really happening here? What are you doing? Are you not afraid? Are you entertaining these? And I was like, no, because I truly believe and I stand on this 10 toes down that God brought me to yoga. And people say, how do you say that? Because I was in church in a centering prayer group doing centering prayer. And part of what came out of that was you need to start moving your body. And the next thing was you need to start moving your body in this way. And it was yoga. And so I have no guilt or no shame or whatever saying, yes, I identify as a Christian woman and yes, I practice yoga. So those two things are not separate for me because, again, my yoga practice started with meditation, not with the asana. And people don't understand
Mhm.
that. It's like my yoga practice started with intentional meditation and breathing, and then the ashanas came after. So it's
Yes. Yes.
very holistic for me. I can't separate them just like to me, I can't separate my belief in God from who I am. It's just who I am. And so that's my spiritual practice. Yes, I do identify as a Christian woman because of Christian background, but my yoga practice has absolutely no conflicts at all for that. And sometimes that's
Yeah.
hard for people to understand.
Yes, the book that you're talking about, the whole title is Love God Herself, Yoga and Mindfulness for Black Women Who Follow the Christ.
Yeah.
So, and I'm going to tell you, Dr. Latora, that was a hard book for me to write. Um, because exactly like what you're saying, I was raised Christian. I still consider myself Christian, kind of metaphysical Christian, but still Christian. And I knew, or God brought to me this idea that Black women, for healing, because of the hostile environment that we live in America and all the things that we've endured being here, we needed to connect with our breathing and our moving energy around our bodies. And there's parts of yoga. Yoga is a very spiritual practice because it's called oneness, right? It's about achieving that oneness. And I've just felt strongly we needed to. I use the scripture that God said, love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and body. Wait a minute. Wait, okay. Love God with all your heart, mind, body, and soul. It's written. One is in Mark, and I think one is in John. And I use it for my dissertation as well. But it's really just about using all of that to love God, and then love yourself like love your neighbor like you would yourself. And this idea of the way I was taught it in school, in Sabbath school, was love God first, love other people next, then love you last. That's how I was taught it.
Hmm.
But the
Me too.
scripture, yeah, but the scripture that Jesus said was love your neighbor as you love yourself.
So,
So that implies that first you have that love for you. And then
right.
from that love, then you love your neighbor. right? That's
Yes.
love for you is supposed to be the basis of how you
Yes.
go out and love the world. And that is not how I was taught it in
Me
Sabbath
neither.
school. I was taught it God, others,
Others.
me last. And that is not what Jesus wanted. So in that book, I had to break all of that down and talk all about. That's why it's called Love God Herself. So it was a hard book for me to write because now it's so many. I wrote it, I don't know, 2018. It doesn't feel like anything now, but at that time, I was really wrestling with spirit and scared and all this thing. Now it's just super, natural to me. But yeah, so yoga was a part of the book, but it was also about this idea of self-love, breathing,
Yes.
connecting with that oneness and all of that. Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's very strong. Very well written, very strong, and I appreciate you for it. And I have referred so many people to that because it actually articulated what I was feeling and how what I felt that I was not expressing well to other people. But it's it's hard to explain to people. You have to experience it for yourself. But I always tell when I'm working with clients, I'm like, if you don't love you, two things. If you don't love you, how can you expect somebody else to? Because you only know what it looks like anyway, even if they are trying to do it. And you can't give out what you don't already have. So how are you loving your kids, your whoever you're supposed to be loving other people if you don't love you? You have to start with you. That's the foundation. That's the starting point. That's the foundation. You
It's
can't
true.
give out what you don't already have. And
It's
we
true.
are all taught that, and especially women. Your God's supposed to come first, then your husband, then your kids, then you maybe, because sometimes it's a work in there and it's other you
Mhm.
do. No, you can't do any of that well if you don't love yourself.
And it's so funny because no one would ever, ever, ever ask a poor person to give all their money away. You know what I
Right,
mean? Or to give
right.
what they don't have, or to search their whole house for 50 cents to give when they know they don't have anything. You know what I mean? And they're not going to eat. No one would ever say to a poor person, I need you to search this house, get 50 cents together and give it to these people who are surviving just fine. They need it.
Yeah.
They need
Mhm.
that 50 cents. Find it, take it out there and give it to that guy who he's got money, but give it to him. No, they would know they would that doesn't that's against common sense. No, you
Right.
save the 50 cents for you, invest it, build it up, do whatever you need to do, start a business with the 50 cents. And then when you have some money, then you could give it to these people. If you know what I mean, if they need it, you could give it to them. But that's not what we do for women. We just tell them it doesn't matter if you're depleted. You just keep giving. Keep giving.
Yep.
Find it.
Yep.
Find it.
Yep.
Find it and
Yes.
give it.
Or
You know?
pretend, right? Pretend.
Yeah. You got it. You're supposed to give it. Just and as society just and that's what being a good wife is.
Of course, of
Okay.
course. Yeah.
You
And a
give,
mother.
you give. Yes. You are a rib, a help meet, all the things. Do it. And it does. Well, I have nothing left. You better find it. You better
Mm-hmm.
find it.
And
And
if you're a
so,
mother, whether you're a wife or not, if you're a mother, you're supposed to do everything
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
for your kids.
Right, right.
It
Every
doesn't matter how you're feeling, right? And not
right.
just your kids. And my son is
Mm-hmm,
21. You're ready to be 22. People still you are expected to still do, and we do it, but
right,
he also knows that there are boundaries. It's like I can't give you what I don't have. And
right,
so
right. Just like if I when I'm driving my kids around, I have my grounding spiritual playlist on. I'm not playing their hip hop or whatever they want to hear. I'm playing what I want to hear. So and they make a joke about it. Like they'll this song and when this song is on, Brooke Brimm is driving. Yeah, because if I had to do double duty of feeling good, feeling all right while I'm also driving you around, that's what I'm going to do. If
yeah,
I need to, like this space I'm in right now, this is my spiritual room. It doubles as the guest room, but it's all my, if you're going to be in here, you coming to visit, you're going to see all my little crystals and everything is going to be in here. That's what you, my books, everything. this space is not set up to be pretty for a visitor who's not here most of the time. It's set up for me, who's here most of the time, and you're here sometimes. Once,
Right.
Twice a year, there's a bed here for you.
Right.
but
Exactly.
but a lot of times we do, we have been taught to create all these spaces and places and environments for other people who are not even present that often,
Right.
and who don't need it as much as us. And then we have no daily space for ourselves. And we have
Yes.
nothing that we're doing for ourselves daily because we're so busy putting on. He wants to listen to NPR. They want to listen to hip hop. They want to do this. And you're just constantly doing everything for everyone else. And where's the time for you? So and that is connecting with your breath and all of that is spiritual, right? So spiritual is not just getting to church on Sunday, shouting, screaming, clapping, having a good time, saying, yeah, say that word. It's so much more than that. You know what I
It
mean?
is.
It's so much more
It
than that.
is.
And it's a daily thing. It's a daily thing. And that's the thing that people also want to beat themselves up about. When you hear that it's a daily thing, that it's something you should be doing for your spirit every day,
Yes.
people want to beat themselves up over it because they believe, and it can be, but it varies from time to time. They believe it's pulling out the Bible, pulling out 2 or 3 Bibles, the lesson that the church gave them, going, writing it all down, and developing this great Christian philosophy, knowing the Bible, reading the whole Bible. It could be, it can be,
Right.
and sometimes it will be, but it's also taking the time to adult coloring book, sitting out in nature, taking a hike. It doesn't look the same every day. And it really is true self-care, is that
Yes.
spirituality. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so
And that's the holistic part.
it should never be something that you're beating yourself up over. Because in my opinion, if you're feeling like you need to beat yourself up over not doing it, it's more than likely attached to religion, because
Yes.
I'm not against religion, but religion beats up on people a lot.
Yes.
So
Yes.
if you're feeling that, if you're hearing the whispers of shaming yourself, beating up on yourself, not doing, saying, I didn't do this, that is possibly religion. But if you're like, hey, I just need to sit here and look out this window, and no guilt, it just feels good. Let me just watch these birds. You know what I mean? Let me listen to this playlist that I like. Let me cook up this special thing that I like, or make a smoothie, or color, or do some clay, or that's spiritual. Like, I would literally, the other day I was out in my family right now. We're going through a challenge. Okay. Someone in my family is having a physical challenge, and it's been a lot. We're at the beginning of the journey, and it's a lot. So I don't know what happened, but I came home one day from whatever we were doing, and I just was in my spiritual room, and I was just, and my husband was like, what is that noise? What is that noise? What is that noise? And so he opened up my room, this room, and I was just, and then he was just like, oh, okay, close the door. You know, because he understood, and I understood in that moment. I was just feeling so many emotions that I needed something. And so I just had this, and I was just, I just needed something repetitive to just help me get rid of some of the energy and the feelings that I was feeling, because I couldn't put words to it. And it's been a lot, and I couldn't journal in that moment. But this, I was like, wait, what I used to have before I moved is I had a little bongo, and I would come in and I was like, I don't have my bongo, because I moved and I had stuff I still haven't 100% unpacked. I was like, where's my bongo? I don't have it. And then I remembered that I went to a gospel brunch with my mother, and they gave each one of us one of these. And I said, when they gave it to me, I was having a good time at the brunch, and I said, when they gave it to me, "Oh, I'm going to keep this in my spiritual room because I don't have my bongo." And when I found it, I was like, sometimes I just need something like that, to
Absolutely.
to get
Absolutely.
me, to ground me, yeah, or to help me clear out energy.
And that's such a great example of things that you can do daily. And when I work with clients, I tell them, so, my motto is self-care is an activity of daily living. And
Mm,
part of self-care is spiritual practice, and it's something that should be done daily. And I think that, if there are certain good things that came out of us being locked down in 2020, I think one of them is people's perspective of I've always felt like this. I am the church, right? Okay, this is the church. So whether I get up and go to that building or not, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But people will try to make you feel so guilty. What do you mean you didn't go to church today? I'm in church every day because this is
mhm,
the temple. I'm there every day because I'm
right,
living in this body. And so I think when you start thinking about it and incorporating it, just become a part of your life. It doesn't have to be these so staunch rules. I have to read this many chapters every morning, and I have to. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I don't. It's just it becomes a part of your who you are, your
right,
being.
exactly, exactly, and it needs to feel good.
Hmm.
That's the whole point. It's a fill up process.
Yes,
It's not a it's not a draining process. If you feel drained, obligated, guilty, blah blah blah, it's
shamed.
not it.
Yeah,
That ain't it. That ain't it.
yeah,
It's supposed to be filling you up. It feels good. It's a good thing.
yeah, absolutely.
And no one can tell you, no one can tell you what that is. Just like I said, oh, I'm not gonna play their hip hop. But if hip hop is where you're at, if that's what's filling you up, I don't see how it could. But whatever. Yeah, I'm gonna keep an open mind. Then that's what it is.
That's
It's
where
not
they
all,
are.
yeah, and
That's where they are in their
it's
journey.
not all created equal, but it does need to feel good to you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm. So we went through nutrition, physical, mental, spiritual. Now we're getting to the part sexual, right? Okay. I like to leave this part to the end. And here we are. So first, let me ask this question: Are you partnered?
I am. Yes.
Okay. Are you partnered? Okay. So Latora is partnered now. I'm going to let you go ahead and tell us what you do for your spiritual health.
So I can tell you it has changed over time. Like my
Hmm.
my idea of sexuality has definitely changed over time.
Hmm.
Um, I already mentioned I grew up Christian, and so that was it was like no,
Yeah.
okay.
Right.
If
Exactly.
you if you're not married, you this that and the other, and you don't do this, and then I think I was talking to somebody. I can't remember if it was something that we did together. I was like, it always bothered me being growing up in church, and if something happened and a young lady ended up pregnant, she would have to come before the church and confess and get pardoned and all this type of thing. But the boy never did.
Right.
And I'm like, did she get pregnant
Right.
spontaneously?
Yeah. Exactly.
Exactly what happened
Is she
here.
married? What
And
happened? Yeah. Yeah.
right, what happened. And so never, and even though being in church, being a small church, everyone knew who the father was, everyone
Mm,
knew what never had to come forward. So that was
wow.
always an issue for me.
Wow. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
I remember somebody got set down from the choir.
yes,
I'm pregnant.
absolutely. Oh, you definitely couldn't
You
participate in
can't
any
serve.
of the
Can't continue to serve God.
mm-mm.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
definitely could not serve if you were part of at that time any of the youth because I was big in the youth group. You had to be you were basically ostracized, which
Mm-hmm.
and only the girl though. Only the
Mm-hmm.
girl.
Wow. Wow.
And in the meantime, the boy probably didn't got somebody else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Working on getting a second person pregnant. Yeah.
Yeah, only
Hmm.
the girl.
Yeah.
So grew up with that kind of mentality. And so it breeds guilt and shame because why am I feeling like this? And
Hmm.
well, but you feel attracted to somebody, but you shouldn't maybe. And like I said, evolved over time. I was
Hmm.
married before. Um, I'm not. I'm divorced now, but I am partnered. I have a life partner. I've been with him for a decade almost. We
Hmm.
are partnered, And I feel good, I feel good about that. And also, as you mature and you age, understand that sexuality is more than just sex. It's
Yes.
more than just a physical aspect of sex, which is wonderful. Sex is wonderful. You have those feelings and emotions and yearnings and stuff for a reason. And it's procreation is part of it when you're younger, but you still have them after you can't procreate anymore. So they must be okay. Okay. So
Yes.
you get to a point where
Yes.
you can't procreate and you still have those urges and feelings. But
Yeah.
especially for me as a woman, what I noticed is even when I was younger, if I didn't have a mental connection with you, I didn't really want you like that, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
you're told that you're supposed to.
Right.
And I never understood that even when I was married. It's like, you haven't spoken to me all day.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't paid any attention to me all day. But soon as the lights go out, now you want to jump on me. No,
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
need you to, I'm gonna need you to move. Get away from me, right? No,
Right. Right.
you haven't invested anything into me for me to
Right.
want. And so I think, especially being the age I am now, 54, having that mental connection, being able to communicate, being able to just being next to my partner. And I tell people that they laugh all the time. I was like, I am all over him all the time. They just like,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm next to him, I'm touching him, whether
Yeah.
he wants it or not. I'm just
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I am so attracted to him, and not just attracted to him sexually, which I am, but just I like him. I
The
like his
whole, all of it. Yeah. That's what I
yeah,
think.
and
One of the persons that I talked to said it's this electric feeling. You get this
yes,
electricity. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I
yes,
get that. Yeah.
yes.
It's not just sex, but it's the touching of the hands, touching of the toes. Just, yeah. Mm-hmm.
If
Yeah.
I'm sitting next to him, my foot is gonna be touching him on my arm. So I'm gonna be touching him at some point.
Yeah.
It's gonna
Right.
happen. And so, and his family is like, when we're together, they're just like, yo, I cannot believe it. Because, like I said, we've been together for almost off and on because we dated when we were earlier in our
Mhm.
30s and then broke up and we got back together. So the family has known us for a while. And it was like every time y'all are like this. It's like, yeah, we are.
That's good. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
All right. So now we're going to just go ahead and with the final words. Let me just put up where they can reach you. So you can reach Latora at the nurse doc is Zen.
Is Zen. Yes.
The nurse doc is Zen. That's on Instagram, and you're on Facebook with that same title, right? Are you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
The
I'm on
nurse
Facebook
doc.
as my name,
Oh, as
which
your
is
name.
Latora Grant Scott.
Okay. So Facebook as Latora Grant Scott, and then IG the nurse doc is Zen. So any final words you want to talk to us about concerning 5 things of holistic health or anything that we didn't get to talk about?
I think all of these things are interconnected. I think I love that you ended on the sexuality part, but I think that it starts with mental. It starts with your nutrition can impact how you're feeling and whether or not you feel um, sexually attractive or whether or not your mental status and everything. So all of them interplay with each other. Your mental status impacts how you're motivated to do things. How you're eating impacts your mental status. Being motivated to do something physical. All of these things are interconnected, and I think we have to look at it as that we're not singular or single plane beings. We are holistic and we're multifaceted. And so all these things interchange and interact with each other. And I just wanted to say, the only thing I didn't say on the sexuality part was that I think as you get older, you get freer, right? And it goes back to that part of if you don't love yourself, how will somebody else love you? You have to understand what your actual sexual needs and desires and stuff are and be able to articulate that to people because they can't reach your mind. And so you need to let them know what you want and what you like and what you don't like. And for it to be a fulfilling experience for both people. And I think a lot of times as women, we're just you're just supposed to be there and just make sure that they're okay and that they, are happy with what's going on with you. you know, and whether like I said, you can all talk to me, you say that to me all day. Don't come at me because it's not gonna happen. So
Yes. Yes.
that's it.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. All the wise words, I appreciate it. It was really good talking to you as usual. And
Always.
yeah, thank you for joining us once again. And I hope that you guys are liking and subscribing if you're enjoying these conversations. We come on at Sunday at 1, and we'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.